Welcome to day 70. Today we're going to be talking about Numbers chapters 34 to 36. Here, the appointed boundaries of Canaan, they're close to conquering Canaan already, and then Numbers ends from there. The appointed boundaries of Canaan, God instructs them once again, and the leaders were appointed to divide the land. I believe this is prior to conquering Canaan. 35 talks about the cities for the Levites. Levites are the ones in charge of carrying the tabernacle. They are not engaged in any war, and it's only their tribe who does all the priestly things. Cities of refuge were talked in chapter 35 as well, specifically those who accidentally kill someone, not with ill intent, and God has planned for that too. Chapter 36 ends about talking about the marriage of female heirs. I'm not going to go through that. Here, the Zelophehad was mentioned, and it's just interesting how God, even in an ancient civilization, he's always involved. This was before kings. I think this is called theocracy. Theo meaning God, and God runs them, tells them what to do. So it's kind of like Moses would be their king if there was hierarchy, but Moses is just a mouthpiece of God. This was before King David, King Saul, and later on we'll learn more about them. Might as well include the comment here of Charles Spurgeon in chapter 35, verse 27. He comments, "He who does not take the step of faith and so enter upon the road to heaven will perish. It will be an awful thing to die just outside the gate of life, almost saved, but altogether lost. This is the most terrible of positions. A man just outside Noah's ark would have been drowned. A manslayer close to the wall of the city of refuge, but yet outside of it, would be slain, and the man who is within a yard of Christ and yet has not trusted him will be lost." This is why I'm patient when I choose to be patient, at least in answering and addressing questions. I could have been comfortably living this life of bubble, but I'm venturing out because I truly believe in the gospel that the message of the cross is God defeating sin, defeating death, defeating hell, defeating the enemy. And that's what pushes me. He himself gives me the strength to do all these things. But it would be a tragic thing if after all that conversations that your answers get your questions get answered one at a time and it starts to make sense. But ultimately, if you don't believe, it's pointless. One of the things I realized when it comes to numbers, with we count normally one, two, three, four, and we don't realize in between one and two there's an infinity of number. There's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.9, and then 2. But it doesn't always connect that way. uh, a non-believer, I would like to illustrate it this way, that they're so close, that like they're so close to number 2, but instead of 1.9 jump to 2, they go 1.91, 1.92, 1.99, and then again skip 2. Instead they go 1.991, 1.999, and then 1.9999999, 1.999. You get the idea. There's an infinity of number between numbers 1 and 2. That's why my fear is that though you ask these questions, maybe if you don't have the resolve to really believe, maybe at some point you're just going to find yourself asking infinity of questions, finding yourself excuse on why not to believe. So it's so tragic that, yeah, you gain knowledge, but for what? Any knowledge is useless if you don't use it. But and ultimately as well, the challenge is for us to believe who he says he is, both to believers and non-believers. And unfortunately, it's a possible reality that can happen to unbelievers. So just a quick reality check on everyone's motive. I do hope that I maintain awareness as well, that me answering questions wouldn't guarantee that someone will be converted or believe in Jesus. But on my end, I would still be an ambassador of Christ. In Corinthians, that's what Paul says. Be ambassadors of Christ. I am asking you to be reconciled to God, and I just leave to Him the results. It can be very frustrating if I check on everyone. Hey, did you make a decision? Was it persuasive enough? And I want to be saved. Although I do want everyone to be saved, but I have no control over the result. The parable of the sower. In this end, I am the sower. My responsibility is to sow, scatter the seeds. I have no control over the soil, over your heart. It's your own, it's your own choice. And if you have a heart of stone and you think that you know better than God, you will not receive any of this. And if you receive, please be very careful. Be connected to a church. I would love to help you out as well. I would love to download everything that I have and give it to you, and you'll do better than me in your Christian life, if that makes sense. Because it's not about a competition. Anyways, that's those are not part of the notes, but yeah, I'll be talking about the. I'll be using Rose Book of Charts here to illustrate the distribution of the inhabitants of Israel, the 12 tribes, and here it is. You see the Canaan divided by the 12 tribes with Reuben, the oldest, youngest is Benjamin, Reuben, Simeon, Zebulun, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Manasseh, Ephraim, Benjamin. Notice there's no Levi here because they're looks like they're kind of scattered and they are in charge of priestly things. So just take a look here. You can just pause this video and look on it. So that's it. We finished Numbers, total of 36 chapters. And my takeaway is that it took them 40 years to get into the promised land. And through airplane, it would be, no, I'm kidding. No, it could have been so much faster if they were obedient. If you read it yourself, they keep complaining, why have you brought us out here? It would have been better if we stayed in Egypt. Why have you brought us? Did you want us to get killed? Oh, you're evil. And they are pointing this to God. And it's amazing how, despite all these miraculous things that he did, uh, people of Israel are still idolatrous, idolaters towards God. And to me, being aware of the human tendency, our tendency to be like that, I I remind myself to obey quickly. I love the Bible. I would love to be able to supernaturally remember all the Bible verses for myself, not to flex on anyone, because that's pointless and it's just more pride. I have enough pride to fight against. But what I mean to say is that when it comes to obedience versus quoting scriptures, I would 100% choose obedience, to the point that I'm willing to erase all my knowledge about Bible if I can choose to obey. That's way better. I'm not saying that the Bible verses are not important. I'm emphasizing the importance of obedience above everything else. Just think of this: if you're into guns or any yeah, let's say guns, and you have all these fancy powerful weapon, and then it's time for you to use it to defend yourself, defend your family, but you don't you don't know how to shoot them. You don't know how to fire. You don't know how to use what you have. Or let's just say sword, to make it sound a little cooler. You have a sword but you don't know how to swing it, is what, like, Pastor Jay is telling us. That's pointless, and to have biblical knowledge as the end point, it's pointless as well, because even Satan knows the scriptures. He quotes the scriptures very well. Even when you argue against a non-believer, they have scriptures as well. They know the scriptures well too. So, to put it in the right perspective, obedience triumphs or trumps, not the president. Obedience trumps all these other things, in my opinion, because in through obedience we show that we love God, that despite us not truly understanding what he's telling us to do, we trust his character more than our own discretion, and that glorifies him. So yeah, 40 years could have been so much faster if they learned how to be obedient. But God is not surprised. He knows that that's our human tendency is, and he was very patient as well. And the Bible, is written for us for our learning. So let's learn from their mistakes. So I guess that's my takeaway. So thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you. I'm hoping that this adds value to your life, that you would seek God daily through Bible reading and prayer. And please take very good care of yourself. Bye bye.